I always been in the city some way or other. When I was in Globe, I wasn't in politics, but I was on the Economic Development Board. I was on the school board for 12 years. I was involved. So in '86, when we moved down here, my brother and I, we opened our business down here. I thought, well, now I can pertain to my business. Well, that lasted a year, and then I started getting on different boards, and in '97, so I didn't last very long. So I'm still in it, and I'm on my 4th term. Yeah, my 4th term as mayor. Mayor's 2-year term. Council is 4 years. When I got elected to the council, Ariek over there was on the council at the time, and it's interesting. You're going to see the things that people always complain about. This is the best thing you can do if you really want to know about your city, because everybody thinks that the laws are too strict, or how come this guy can do this and I can't do this? Because we were a young city, it wasn't a city till '78, and a lot of things were grandfathered in because it was county. So we have to live with those things. A lot of things are changing. They're changing now because a lot of these old buildings, these old things are going away. Thank goodness they're going away. We're becoming, well, when I came here, I think the population was a little over 17,000. And now we're, what, 37, almost 38. So it's growing. We got involved with the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. We now belong to them, so I sit on that board also. And you figure, well, why? There are neighbors. There's a lot of things happening around that area. We've only got so much land here in Apache Junction. We're bordered by U.S. Forest Service to the north, Gold Canyon to the east, Mesa on the west. The only place we can grow is down south, and that's state trust land, the other side of baseline. So we've been trying, how long are you to get that land? How long? 10 years? Every time we seem we're getting someplace with state land, they change directors. And that's the truth. Since I've been mayor, since I've been on the board, we've had 4. So you think you're making headway to get that land so we can expand either industrial, light industrial, or retail, more homes. Somebody else will come on board and say, well, we gotta investigate this, and you go back to square one. There's a lot of things that we're kind of proud of. This is a very warm community. We got a lot of partners. The American Legion and the VFW, which I'm a member of both, they're always asking, what can we do to help the city? We wanted to do something downtown to show our vets. We didn't have the money. Well, we had the money to do it, but we can't take money out of taxpayers' money to do something of a memorial. So myself and Councilmember Dave Waldron, we went to the American Legion, the VFW, both VFWs, the auxiliaries. We needed $8,500. In 30 days, we had $9 grand that they donated. So when you see all those things, this is something that is in our city, but it was all done by organizations, veterans organizations. We have a very good rapport with these people. They're always asking what they can do. And in fact, I was just asked by the commander of the VFW last week what they can do for the city. I said, Paws and Claws needs money. He said, I'll see you after the first of the year. A lot of these things wouldn't happen without donations and volunteer help. And we have so many, and that's another thing. Our winter visitors that come, you'd be surprised how many of them volunteer for a lot of things. Now, the way I'm talking to you tonight, you're going through, a lot of cities, I don't think, do this. We visit all the neighborhoods. We go to neighborhood meetings. Myself, a couple other council members, the police chief, city attorney, public works, the fire department, and we listen. We go there and they tell us what their problems are, what we can do for them, and this has been going on for, I can't remember how many years. As far as I know, we're probably the only city in the East Valley that does that. We try to get the response from the people, what their problems are. This is not bragging, I'm just saying this is how things work in a small community. You don't get this in the bigger communities. You don't get any of this. So I'm going to shut up and ask for questions.
In 1980, the city was barely 2 years old. It was incorporated in November 1978, and the first employees were not hired until sometime in '79. I was about the 10th employee when I took the job in 1980. I originally was the first secretary to the city's first planning director. And then within a year, I became the secretary to the city manager, deputy city clerk, acting city clerk, and then there were a couple of times where I wound up being acting city manager. And I wish George were here, because every time I get to this part, I empathize with him, because it's not a job I would ever want to do again. It's very, very difficult to be city manager. Pat, or in the past, Pat would touch on it, and Constance touched on it now. My election experience, that became very important, because in the early days here in Apache Junction, we were always being bombarded by threats of recall, of disincorporating the city. There was a creative solution offered at one point in time where the particular individual, Mr. Saggio, thought disincorporating was too difficult under the law, so he decided he would try to dissolve the city instead. And he tried to use corporate law to try to eliminate the city of Apache Junction. He was not successful. We went to court, actually went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court justices very politely told him, no, you cannot create your own law. So Apache Junction is in the state law books in many, many instances for different instances of case law. I have been called in the past as a certified election witness in areas of election law. I've had the unfortunate experience, fortunately it was a while back, of having to testify against a county manager because of the way he mishandled an election process. And that was the county manager who recently spent some time in jail. But not for election laws, for other things. The city clerk is one of 5 positions that's required by law. The others are, I think it's chief of police, city engineer, I think a city health officer, and there's a couple in there. Positions, that doesn't mean we can't have other positions, but it means that there's 5 minimum in order for a local government to exist. City clerk is one of them. In addition to being city clerk, under my title, I'm the city election official, secretary to the mayor and council, which is a lot of fun. We have a water board, so I'm district clerk for that. I'm the city records administrator. I'm the city tax officer, because we collect our own tax. Secretary to the Public Safety Personnel Retirement Board. Secretary to the Health and Human Services Commission. But what's most important to me is that I'm a city resident and a city voter. And I take that, especially the voter part, very, very seriously. I've attended all but 4 council meetings. That's by best of my recollection. And that is, I did the calculations today. It becomes embarrassing after a while. About 1,440 council meetings, from my best guess. And that includes regular meetings, special meetings, work sessions, that whole thing. It's kind of scary when I put these statistics together. If you've ever been into a council meeting, I read things into the record. I take the roll call. I figure I've done about 16,800 roll calls on motions, because there's several of those throughout the course of a meeting. And I've read into the record probably about 1,530 city ordinances. So when you do it, you don't think about it, but when you sit down and look at the cumulative effect, it's quite a bit. And I've given the oath of office to every mayor and city council member since, I guess, 1982. So, and I always tease them when I do it, saying that it's the only time I can legally swear at them. So, enough about me. I want to talk a little bit about Arizona. Arizona was the last state in the mainland United States to be admitted to the Union. And that was done in 1912. And the state had a shaky beginning. In 1910, the whatever governmental body was in place, I guess what was a territorial body, drafted the first state constitution. And in there, they had a provision that allowed for the recall of judges. They shipped that constitution back to Washington, D.C., which was part of the process before you became a state. President Taft was the president at that time, and he rejected the Constitution, and statehood was not approved. It came back, that provision was removed, and then statehood was allowed. Now, you still cannot recall judges in most places in Arizona, but you can recall other elected officials at various levels of government. And if you get an idea how long people in Arizona might carry a grudge, if you're familiar with downtown Phoenix, you've got streets named after Washington and Van Buren and Jefferson and Monroe, but there is not a single street named after President Taft. And that was because he rejected the first attempt to become a state. Apache Junction, like I said, was a little shaky at the beginning. We didn't exist before November 1978. And when the city was incorporated, the voters had a choice. Do you want to be called a city, or do you want to be called a town? And there's laws that say if you want to be a city, you have to meet this criteria, certain population, otherwise you can be a town. The voters approved it as the city of Apache Junction. One of the other things Apache Junction still is under state law, you can either be a general law city or you can be a charter city. Charter city, a bit more flexible, you get to write some local rules. And I'm saying some because you're not 100% on your own. You still have to follow state law. This is one volume of state law. I have in my office 80 volumes of these, 80 hard copy volumes of these, and 14 soft copy books, soft cover books. So there's a tremendous amount of laws. There's about 30 books, or sections of 30 books, that apply to Apache Junction and what we do and cannot do. Like I said, Apache Junction's general law city, covered by the ARS, and that's our general operating rules. Now, in one of these books, in Title IX, it says that the mayor and council can adopt even more rules that are even more local. They can do things like business licenses, dog licenses, local sales tax, building permits, property maintenance. All those things are for the very, very local level. And we have a city code that has those rules. The original city code, when I first started here, was 25 pages long. I looked at it today, and it's up close to 350. So, and that's just volume one. Volume one is your basic everyday stuff. Volume two is the land development code, which is signage and zoning and things like that. And a lot of that is not just stuff they've decided to do. A lot of it is stuff they've had to do because the state mandates it or the feds mandate it. So it's got to be in our codes. Since July of 2007, we have been collecting our own city sales tax, and very, very successfully. This last legislative session, the powers that be downtown decided that that was no longer a good idea, and that beginning in January 2015, all sales tax has to be collected by the state of Arizona. Now, having been there and done that, I am very concerned. And the mayor and the council, everybody throughout the state, begged the state legislature not to make that change. They've opted to do it anyway. And right now, we're not sure if they're going to be ready when that 2015 date rolls around. I think we're a very generous community. We've got some rough edges, but I think that's okay. You know, we're not just bland and just like some of the other communities. We don't disappear into the background. We're always kind of out here, you know, always doing something. And one of the things I like to do is be proud of your community, whether you've only been here 5 weeks or, you know, years and years, because it's a good place to live. It's super, super generous, as you've seen by some of the donations. When we incorporated, we were originally 13 square miles, and now we are 34.6 square miles. So we've roughly tripled. It took a whole bunch of attempts before Apache Junction incorporated. I've been told 13, I'm not sure if that's true, but I know that it took more than 2 or 3. And what happened was that each time the voters were asked to say yes or no, they were provided a map. You know, this is what your map's going to look like. And at one point in time, the western boundary went almost to Power Road. It went to Jefferson Street, which is just to the east of Power Road. And people who were here then said, ah, too big, too big, too big. So it was scaled down, scaled down, scaled down, and it finally wound up with the western boundary being Meridian, the north, McKellips. The south was Baseline, and the east at that time was Goldfield.
Which Goldfield?
Goldfield. And then because of annexations, it's increased a little bit over the years.
When I listen to the bio a little bit, it takes me back to the years when we were building these facilities. But actually, that story needs to go back to the mid-90s, well before I was here, when the vision of this community and the mayor and council started to say, what kind of community we wanted to be, what kind of community and facilities and amenities can we have for our community. And over a period of time in the mid to the late 90s, our fiscal responsibility, the same as it is now and is then, was to set aside a little bit of money. We called it the Capital Facilities Plan. And in the late 90s, the council adopted this plan to construct, I think, about 10 projects: an expansion to the library, this multi-gen recreation center, the city hall, the municipal court, some improvements in the downtown, the new stands in the rodeo grounds, Superstition Shadows Park, and the skate park. And one of the most favorite things, now fast forward 15 years, all those have been constructed. They are all paid for. City Hall has no debt. We owe nothing. You need to know that as residents, that this facility that you're in right now has no debt. That's very unusual. The skate park, the only debt, it doesn't have any debt. The only debt that we have and we carry right now with those facilities is $250,000 a year for the expansion of the library, and it's for about another 18 years. And as to put that in perspective, of a $40 million budget, which is our annual budget, that is like a mortgage payment of maybe a few, $50 or $100 for us. And so that allows for us to be positioned very well for the future. Like Constance said, I live off Baseline and Tomahawk. I always say I live about a 9 iron from the landfill. We moved there in 2001, my wife and I, with 1 daughter. Now we have 3 daughters. They all go to school here. At junior high, I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And they're right at that time where I could tell it's going to start getting fun for mom and dad. So we really enjoy it here. Like I said, I growing up in Safford, it's always interesting. When I go to, in city meetings and represent the city going into town, they say, oh, Apache Junction, that's way out there, Like, you're on Apache Junction. I was like, you have no clue. And I said, well, and when I grew up, we arrived when we got to Apache Junction. Yeah. We got a Circle K, we got some stuff. I always thought it was interesting. And I say we've arrived, and it is a real neat diamond out here. And in the coming weeks, you'll have the opportunity to get to know our department directors, who are wonderful, wonderful staff members, and they'll tell you a little bit about each of the mission of their departments. So my part of this, and again, welcome to the Citizen Leadership Institute. I think we probably mentioned that it's an award-winning It received ICMA, which is the International City Managers Awards, a few years back as an award-winning program, and we're really proud of it. We welcome you, and my part is to talk a little bit about the council manager form of government. Many of the big cities in the East and even in the West, they are a strong mayor form of government, where the mayor hires and fires. And I don't know if when you came in tonight, if you knew that the mayor and the council do not hire the department directors. Did you know that already? Maybe you probably told them. Okay, so it's a little bit different, and so I'll go through that. But our orientation, mine and George's over the years, is that we're here and we exist as city employees, sole purpose to serve our residents, to serve our community. We are a service organization, and we try our very best. In the fact that we are also a regulatory environment. We have the blessing and the responsibility and the realization that with our police officers, for example, to take away someone's rights, that's a hard responsibility, that to try to manage that on day-to-day. We have code compliance. We have the code compliance departments that may get on, some say, well, we got to change your private property, it may not be just, and so we have a balance to work there. We are in that regulatory environment, but yet we have to do it with customer service and with our residents in mind. And so we have established a mission and values, and in your packet, I don't know if you guys are there, but there's our City of Apache Junction mission and value statement, and we work with our employees to reinforce that trustworthiness, mutual respect. We recognize that our employees, that if they were to win the lottery and win $1 million, that they may not stick around, but that if they're not, we hope that we set an environment as management, that they'll be enthusiastic about being able to provide service to the resident, to the customer. The efforts of city staff have an opportunity on a daily basis to make a difference in our 37,000 people's lives, whether it be trying to help a resident with a pothole or accumulate data and fix roads, or work with developers and help establish the future economic development of the city. What I like to point out on the organizational chart is that right up on top, of course, is our voters. We are here to serve our voters, and they elect our mayor and council. And they have to help and assist them many boards and commissions. And I don't know if this was said already, but I would say the vast majority of the members of those boards and commissions come from this group. Over the years, as I've watched the mayor and council select individuals to be on these boards and on these commissions, it's almost now automatic. They ask, have you done the CLI? You've probably seen that. And you're doing it. So if you're ever interested, and I encourage you, invite you, we'd love to have new ideas, new folks on those. And so it's the Board of Adjustment. That's dealing with planning. If a situation where somebody's property doesn't allow to fit the code, that you can go in and get an adjustment or a variance, and that Board of Adjustment helps with that. And those are all folks from the community that fill those boards. And then the council hires 3 people. They hire the presiding judge, and he helps. His name is James Hazel, and he'll be here, I think, one of the days, I'm sure. And he runs the municipal court. Our city attorney, Joel Stern, and he is our attorney and helps give us advice on legal matters. And then the city manager. City manager's job is to carry out the policy or the direction of our mayor and council on the day-to-day basis, and we'll get into a little bit more of that. And then he hires, as his staff, and in our case, an assistant city manager. That's me. And my role specifically is to help the day-to-day function of the operation. And then we have different departments. We have a parks department director, city clerk, finance department, library, police, public safety, and public works. Now the next page has a little bit about what is the council manager form of government, and why is it used in so many towns and cities and counties. In Arizona, almost every city, all 98 or 99, I don't know if there is a
93 of them.
93 cities and towns.
No, I'm sorry, 92.
92. Maybe Nogales, maybe.
Nogales, it was strong mayor, I'm not sure if he changed.
Yeah. are council manager form of governments. It's a little different in that the council hires these 3 folks to help run the basic management. It provides strong political leadership, which is of the elected body, and then they hire this manager who comes in and can work and be accountable to them, who runs the daily operations. It's a very, very responsive form of government because I will attest to you that on any given day I can get a call, or George, or any of us really at the department director level, from the mayor or council, and they will let us know what's maybe happening or not happening in the city. And so it's a great way to have that political leadership who's connected to the community be able to work quickly with the department directors. Now, what it also does is it also avoids any type of situation where, not that this would happen, but a mayor could say, well, I want my brother-in-law or I want someone else to be a department director. And it keeps that political situation out of the management, out of city government. Not all council manager forms of government are the same, but the council's function is the legislative body. In essence, if you think of the federal government and the Congress, and they are the body that comes up and creates law, the same for your city government is the city council. They are our legislators, and they create law. We're working right now on changing city code for a simple thing, but it's important. It's the return. We're not calling it check fee anymore because it's not everything's a returned item fee. So if someone does a bounce check, that we have to change the city code on that. And, so they can function on that level, and they can worry about those types of things on where the city wants to go. The manager's function is primarily to help train and administer the local government projects. We and the manager's office, probably one of the most primary responsibilities is the city budget. And the responsibility of the city manager is to balance that budget. Does that seem simple nowadays? And would think that in the federal government, we can't print money in the city government. And in fact, what's really interesting is the state government, we're essentially creatures of the state government. There's the federal and the state government in the United States Constitution, and we are a creature of the state. And the state mandates that we show them a balanced budget. And about 4 years ago, I used to say in this same setting, well, I wish they'd do it for themselves. Yeah. And as a U.S. citizen, I kind of feel the same way about our federal government. But don't want to go there, and we don't need to go there. But for our city government, each and every year, the manager's office works with all the departments to develop a balanced budget. It's not too unsimilar to your household budget. We do a forecast of the revenues. I will say that in the Great Recession, we've gone from, in the general fund, now I said $40 million, that's all our funds. That includes our street funds, which are what we call HERF, Highway User Revenue Funds, that's a gas tax. But just the general fund has gone from 30 million to 20 million. That's a 33% decrease in revenues. Yet I stand here today and say we have no more debt. Well, that is because each and every year we worked hard to align what the mayor and council's, what their strongest priorities were. So we said, okay, mayor and council, we have public safety, it's our biggest department, Parks and Rec, library, development services, code compliance, building. Where do you want us to? And they said, keep PD the same, keep public safety the same. Well, that's what we do. So we go back and we run the numbers, and we work with Chief Monahan at the time and now Chief Kelly, and we manage that budget to keep the same. All right, well, somewhere we got to cut, over a 5-year period we've lost, and so it was more like about $1 million a year, for those years. And in the areas of Parks and Recreation, they've gone from a $4 million budget to a $3 million. How did they do it? It's very difficult. For example, the number of weeks that they were providing swim lessons decreased by 2 weeks. We used to have after-school programs at the school at 3 facilities. Now it's just 1. So we kind of worked with our community on those type of things. Now on the other end, in Public Works, we've worked really closely with and the judge will talk a lot more about this, our community service workers, and they've helped a ton to help maintain certain areas of our community. Recognizing, though, that we've also lost a lot of people in public works, and probably one of our most greatest concerns in the manager's office long-term is our streets and our roads. It's interesting about roads. It's one of those things where if you don't stay on it and maintain it, you can get a brand new road and it'll last 20 years, but after about 15 years it starts to wear down, or 10 years. And what you can do is with little investment, so like $10 a square yard, you can prolong that life if you keep it from getting water too far in, and you can prolong it to 30 years and 40 years. And in the years where it was a little bit, when the economy was better, and Doug Dobson, our public works director, we would maintain these roads longer and better. We're losing the battle. We're losing the battle out there. We have been able to spend some of our savings, and we're hoping some media will show some of this. In the area of 16th Avenue, we've done some street improvements. In Superstition Via, which is off Idaho Road, and 16th and Broadway, we've done some repaving. In the area just north of Broadway and west of Ironwood, Grand, Palo Verde, Maine, and Ocotillo all got repaved this year. And then the subdivision called Apache Via also was repaved. But that savings, so our maintenance budget in our streets is basically a 1-to-1 ratio. But long term, we're going to be concerned about our streets and roads, and that's probably their biggest concern, and they hear that a bunch. So the manager gives that technical advice. We have a city engineer who's telling us, hey, mayor and council, look out on the horizon, that's coming. Let's start making preparation. The council can start having conversations with the community about that.